While I was in Morocco, I had the chance to speak with a young woman. Her name is Zainab, and we talked about her culture, her city, and what it means to grow up as a woman where she's from, which is Mohammedia, Morocco. Zainab was the first person who greeted me straight from my flight. It was actually a midnight flight because my flight was delayed, and she was obviously very hospitable and sweet, and I'm just so happy and excited that I get to share this experience. And this conversation is part of a project that I'm exploring, in which I will explore the similarities and differences between Moroccan and American women's lives. And this is not to compare which is better, but to understand how culture, place, and opportunity shape us regardless of border or place or where you're born. This is her story.
First question is, what parts of your culture are you most proud of? I would say that the thing that I really, really love and I am proud of in Moroccan culture is our hospitality and our willingness to show our culture uh, through love. As in, we genuinely just want people to see our culture through our own lenses and experience the love that we have for it and hopefully flourish it in them as well. I love how diverse Moroccan culture is from the north to the south. Different music, different food, different clothes, different customs, traditions. It's extremely diverse, it's extremely beautiful, and every day I learn something new and it captivates me. So yeah, I definitely love the hospitality and the diversity.
While I was listening to her, I couldn't help but realize that a lot of people think of America as basically a melting pot. You have so many different people of different ethnicities, races, different backgrounds, and because we're expected to be this melting pot, a lot of people don't take the time to appreciate what an honor it is to be able to experience that. I would say growing up in New Orleans, it is predominantly black. But there are also many white people, there are also many Asians, there are also many Hispanics. And I have gone to mostly all diverse high schools and elementary schools. And I truly do think that diversity really made me comfortable with the uncomfortable. And because it really forces you to hone in on your growth mindset. So I will say that diversity is also something that I'm really proud of in my community. The second question I asked her was, what's what's everyday life for the average kid, teenager, child, adult, woman, man in Morocco?
Everyday life for young women in Mohammedia. Um, I would say Mohammedia is pretty boring city to be in. Personally, for me as personally, just because I've experienced life in other cities like Marrakesh, Rabat, Tanja, Tetouan. So I would say that Mohammedia is a very mild um city where there isn't really much to do as a young woman. There's not much opportunities. There's not much cultural or artistic opportunities. There's no museums, no libraries, no art centers, no malls. It's a very calm city. That's very true. But at the same time, I wish it had something more, something unique, something interesting. Overall, I would describe life in Mohammedia as very mild, very uninteresting, a little bit boring, but good. It's that kind of boring that feels like a small town where you can feel safe and you know that there's not much happening. And yeah.
I think that New Orleans is really similar in the fact that there isn't a lot for the youth to do. It's a lot of the same day to day life because a lot of our culture is catered to young adults and tourists. But the natives to New Orleans, we've grown into this culture, but our culture isn't really growing itself. So when we're growing up, but the city is staying the same, it's really hard to find everyday life to be challenging or different or mentally engaging. So I will say that it can be a little bit monotonous And it does feel a little bit the same every single day. But I know in bigger cities like New York, it's a lot of hustle and bustle. You might meet one celebrity one day, you might have a job interview the next day. So it really does depend on your experience and who you are and what you've grown up with, because that will open so many doors for you in your childhood and growing into your adult life. Next, we kind of talked about like her experience with watching the youth and how she thinks that we can better support our youth, or our youth can support themselves.
In my small community of Mohammedia, I think that the most important skills that we should really, really focus on and nurture in our youth is the sense of responsibility and care for the city itself, because lately I see a lot of people who don't really appreciate the beauty in Mohammedia, the greenery, the beaches. It's almost as if it's getting overlooked, and the youth no longer have those skills of caring, for other things. At least more opportunities for the youth to actually exert their capabilities at a large scale in Mohammedia, as in if only we had more clubs for community service, for example, or more places where the youth can meet, can create projects, can have goals, can do things that would make the city more alive. So yeah, maybe more creativity skills, more collaboration skills, and more responsibility as well. I think that education is one of the most important things that a person can have, regardless of their gender. But in a Muslim majority country, in a Arab Amazigh country, it's even more pivotal to have that education, because we're very close to countries where those rights are being taken away. So getting education as a young woman itself is not only a privilege, but also a way to protest, and also a way to ensure that you still have power.
Originally, I asked the question of just being, what is your education like in Morocco? And she goes to be even more specific. It seems like it's more of a protection rather than an opportunity like it is in America. In America, we have certain laws. We have truancy laws. There are standards to be met for education. But now in this day and age, we see that in Arab countries, in Muslim majority countries, education is being taken away from women every single day. The next question I just asked her, how do you feel about the way that tourists and foreigners view Morocco?
I think a lot of people have made a certain image about Morocco recently, especially with how popular it has been getting with the football scene, the tourism scene. Everyone has this sort of whimsical view of Morocco, where you come here, you fall in love, and it never leaves your soul, which is something that I find truly, truly beautiful. And I hope that a lot of people can actually find this experience and find this joy when they come to Morocco. But at the same time, a lot of people take that for granted, if that makes sense. That nurturing nature, that hospitality, that care, that love that we love to share is often taken for granted, or taken advantage of by a lot of people, to a point where sometimes we are seen as naive, or we are seen as pitiful. These are things that I've seen online that really hurt me, because as a person who truly wants to just share my culture through a loving lens, being seen as a pitiful, or um, as a needy, or I don't have the correct expression, but it's just being seen as someone who's desperate, is very, very distasteful. So the one thing people get right about us is that we are definitely a very hospitable country that is full of love, and we love to share it. But what they do get wrong is that 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 love and that hospitality can be taken advantage of, which is very wrong because it can turn things very sour very fast.
I would say that when I first arrived to Morocco, I was greeted with open arms, warm hands, really good food in my stomach. I was always eating something because they wanted me to be healthy and full. So I will say that Moroccans are actually one of the kindest, most generous people that I've ever met. And my host family, we've become really close. I still talk to my host sister, my host cousin, my host mom, and I will say that it was definitely a shocker. I'm from the South, New Orleans, so we do have Southern hospitality, but this was a different type of hospitality that I've never experienced before. And for them to just willingly open their doors and open their hearts for me, for basically a complete stranger, that really spoke volumes for me. And to think that people take that as being naive or anything less than just being generous, I think that that's really eye-opening. And I do believe that people who are outside of Morocco should really just experience and get to know their culture because it's beautiful. And the way that they think, the way that they present themselves, and the way that they communicate with others isn't just, I'm giving you something and I want something back, but it's out of pure selflessness. And I will say that when I went to Morocco, I fell completely in love with it. I want to come back, but I do have to wait until I can afford it. So I'm really hoping that my education takes me really far so that I can come back and visit my host family and everybody that I met.
The one thing I would love for young people to take away from growing up in Morocco is that one must always have hope for the future, and have that strength, have that need to create better opportunities for oneself. Because as much as I love Morocco as a country, it's also not a place where you can get things handed to you or where you can find things easily. It's a battlefield. You truly have to fight for yourself. So although that has negative and positive sides, I do hope that it teaches people resilience, responsibility, maturity, and how to count on one's skills, how to hone them, and how to always strive to be the best in whatever they do, to be number one, and to make not only your family proud, but yourself proud. And that's what matters the most, is making yourself proud. And growing up, seeing what you can change about yourself, learning and fixing yourself, because no one is perfect and no one starts with everything. So yeah, build that resilience, build that growth mindsets, and always think about life as a battlefield where you get to try to be the top.
She describes that she hopes young people always have hope for the future. And I think that in America, the future has always been very important. I feel like because we're so fast paced, because we're always thinking about the next meeting, the next interview, the next job, the next day, the next 24 hours, we're always thinking about what can we do for our future without living in the now. So I do think that that's really important to us, but I also do hope that we realize what we're doing in life and actually take a second to sit and think about how this will actually affect the near future or for future generations. She says that Morocco isn't a place where everything is handled to you and you have to fight because it's like a battlefield. And I agree. I am a Black young woman, and I will say that everything doesn't come easy. I see my other counterparts who have things a little bit easier than me just because of their skin tone or their gender. I will say that I have had to show out a lot more. I have had to do a lot more work. And that is not because I have less value. It is not because I am less intelligent, but simply because of the context and the backgrounds in which America has kind of dwelled itself on. So I will say that it's kind of similar for certain backgrounds in America compared to Morocco. So I do really agree with this take that young people just need to always have hope for the future, because without hope, there is no growth. And she says something that just really touches me. She says, what matters most is becoming someone you're proud of. And that really it hits home very intensely. I do believe that you should strive for greatness. You should strive for wealth. You should strive for money. You should strive to be able to provide for you and your family. But at the end of the day, you can't live your life trying to please others. You can't live your life trying to live by something that you don't want to do or something that you don't love, because you're not going to do it for the right reasons. So I do think that that's really beautiful. And I think that that take really describes the experience that I've had in Morocco. I just felt so welcomed. I felt so loved. I felt like I loved myself a lot more in Morocco. I don't know why that is, but I had a really great time. My body was relaxed. My mind was relaxed. I was so comfortable in my own skin, my own body. So I do think that this was just really important. And I just want to take the time to thank Zainab and my host family, if you guys are listening, and CIEE Center for International Educational Exchange, and just for everyone, my parents, my teachers, Mr. Deere, for making this opportunity happen and for allowing me to have this interview in the first place. Because everywhere I go, I tell people, oh my gosh, you should go to Morocco, because it's genuinely a life-changing experience, and I truly did fall in love, and I cannot wait to go back. Thank you for listening to my interview. I hope this really helped bridge a gap between two worlds that is very opposing right now, and I hope that it kind of blends the lines of the borders. Thank you.